Hey ladies, it's Amanda. Welcome to the Feel Amazing Naked podcast. This is a show where we dig deep, get honest, and talk about all the unsexy steps it takes to meet your goals. Whether you want to get fit, eat healthier, make more money, start a business, or any other results you desire in your life. Most of all, this podcast is for women who are ready to feel amazing naked on the outside and the inside. So ladies, time to take it off. Welcome to the Feel Amazing Naked podcast, ladies. I'm so excited you're here, and I want to give a little context to today's episode. I did a 4-part series that I'm going to be sharing on the podcast over the next few weeks, all with regard to self-prioritization and breaking through some of the beliefs we have around putting our needs and our wants first while we still do all the things that are required of us inside our life. So I want to give this context because they were done on Instagram and Facebook Lives. So you might hear me refer to the comments or the chat box or people asking questions live. That is why that's happening. We're just resharing the trainings because they were so powerful and we got so many great pieces of feedback from ladies of the stories I shared and some of the aha moments inside of them. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. And without further ado, here we go. I'm really excited that you're here with me today. I am talking about something that I call the checklist effect. You may not have heard about it. I'm going to share a little bit more about what it is and why it matters to you, because I think there are so many of us that struggle with it, and my old self definitely struggled with this. So I'm going to be talking about, what the heck is the checklist effect and why it's a problem specifically. I'm also going to be talking about why checking the boxes, like wanting to put that little checklist down and to-do list specifically, actually decrease your productivity, contrary to what everybody else might be telling you, why this is a problem for you. And also the 3 specific reasons that to-do lists aren't your friend. They don't work. So I want to tell you a little story as I get going, because this is going to be really relevant for you. I think you've been there before. I was so damn good at checklisting. If you don't know much about my journey, I was a teacher for many, many years, 10 years. And my dogs are, of course, going crazy because I went live. I love to check the boxes. I was helping all the kids, and I was like, okay, when I get to work, I'm going to write this list. And I had no idea, though, at the time that the to-do list stuff was actually creating a massive sense of overwhelm for me in my life. And I want to show you why that is. If you're a checklist and a to-do lister and you've told yourself, oh, I just make a list. I'm just so good at it. I am such a good checklister. I love checking the boxes. Check, check, check. This is actually reducing productivity. And it may feel like on the surface you're getting a lot of crap done, but I'm going to show you today why you're actually not productive towards what makes you happy and purposeful and intentional, and why it's holding you back from having actual results in your life. And this is the part that I was missing for so long. So what is the checklist effect? It's literally what I just said. It's this effect or the desire for you to create consistent checklists because you love going through and checklists, basically crossing them off, because you get that little hit of endorphin rush going through and it feels so good. You get this juicy, thick, immediate sense of gratification. Immediate gratification comes from the checklisting. So you keep doing it, right? You're I'm just going to make another checklist. And pretty soon you've got 55 checklists, sticky notes placed somewhere. You've got a journal full of to-do lists. And truthfully, they're not really serving you, which is where we're spending our energy at and checklisting it today. So you may be feeling like you're a master at this, and you get that little dopamine hit, Taylor saying yes, and you get that momentary high, let's just call it that, little momentary high, yeah, I'm doing all the things. And I know you've fallen into that. So that defines what I call the checklist effect. And a lot of women I work with, many of them fall into this trap in the beginning because we've been taught traditional productivity strategies. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a to-do list, so don't say, oh, well, come on now, I'm so good at it. Yes, we are good at it, but there are reasons that it actually makes us less productive on the stuff that actually matters. And so to-do lists in and of themselves get all the attention, right? Oh, you want to be more productive? Just write the list, do the thing. But that is a trap that we fall into. So we've defined the checklist effect. Now you know, but I want to talk about why you might be going like, well, how does that actually make me less productive? Well, here's how productivity is impacted when we make checklists. So just imagine you made the list, right? So you've got this list in front of you. And I want you to even like put the hat on for yourself and think about the last time you made a to-do list. So you make this list. Maybe it's got 10 items. Maybe it's got 33 items. I'm not sure what it is for you. And you start to look at this list, and maybe you can type in the comments like what your first thought is. But here's what I experience and what I hear from a lot of my clients. The moment then they start to see all this stuff on paper, they think the thought comes in for them and they choose it like, holy crap, this is so much, or there's so much to do, or another one like, there's never enough hours in the day. And so if you've not tuned into that thought, by the way, there's a feeling that follows it. So when you think one of those thoughts, you feel something immediately in your body. And that feeling, for me, is overwhelm. For you, it might be frustration. I don't know. You can even type like what comes in when you see like that big, long to-do list that comes up for you. For me, it's an immediate sense of feeling of overwhelm, like my chest gets tight. Yes, instantly overwhelmed, says Carissa. I get like that flush feeling, and it's like, there's no way. How am I going to do all the things? So then let's talk about what happens when you take action from a place of overwhelm, which many people are doing around us. We are in a chronic state of overwhelm when it comes to the women I work with. Working women who are taking care of families, they're taking care of their career, maybe they run a business, they're trying to take care of their household stuff. They've got this to-do list a mile long, and immediately it's like, you have to take a deep breath, and that feeling of overwhelm sets in. And when you're overwhelmed, here's what's happened. You feel paralyzed. There's literally like analysis paralysis that sets in because you're starting to ask, well, like, what on this list actually matters? What here is relevant? Where do I start? Right? And you're not even sure because you haven't done some of the other stuff that's actually more important than the to-do list to get clear on what your actual priorities are. So you stare at the list in deep overwhelm, literally kind of stuck and stunned because you don't know what next best step to take. The other thing that happens is you aren't clear on your priorities, like I mentioned. You are just like vacillating. Okay, there's work stuff, there's personal stuff, and you kind of have this inner dialogue conversation of like, I don't really want to do the work stuff, but I should. I don't really want to do the kid stuff. I'd rather like go get a workout in. I'd rather read a book. I'd rather lay on my couch. And the other thing that we do that you unconsciously may not even be aware that you're doing is you start to collect evidence to prove your thinking true. This is huge in all things that we do in life. What happens is you're looking at that list and you're starting to try to prove that thought you had, like there's so much to do, true. You're like, oh my gosh, and I got to take the kids to do this, and I got this work to do thing, and oh my gosh, right? It's like you're sinking deeper into this hole of overwhelm because you think that the to-do list is actually going to be a solution, and it's not. So the result is you just sit. You literally don't get anything done for the vast majority of time, or at least for a little while. And there still remains a whole bunch of stuff to do, and you haven't taken action. So if this resonates, tell me yes, you've done this before. I know we all have. And so this is why to-do lists aren't actually effective alone. They're missing a few components. It's like you're missing like the bread. If that was the meat, the bread, there's some stuff that needs to happen before on top, let's say, and there's some stuff that needs to go at the bottom to actually help a to-do list to be impactful and not to send you into a place of overwhelm. And this is where what most people are missing. They instead are just checklisting their life away, thinking like, yay, 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 and they're not really getting where they want to go in life. This is a chronic struggle. We tell ourselves to-do lists are effective, they're doing us justice, they're serving us, and we're actually not getting any closer to the results that we actually want. So why is this? Why are the to-do lists actually not effective alone? So I want to talk about 3 reasons that I see, and from my perspective in my own life and coaching so many women, that to-do lists are not impactful. Number 1 is to-do lists have too many choices. It's either like this or that, and this or that, and this or that, and this or that. And so you've got this long list. You guys, the brain loves simplicity. Carissa says, I do this all the time. I totally freeze and end up avoiding what actually needs to get done. Good. Keep listening because this is a really important part of the conversation coming up too. So thank you for sharing that. I know you're not alone because I hear this from women all the time is it's just freeze. And so then I'll talk about next what we do instead. So there's so many choices on this list, you're not really sure what matters to you most in the moment. And when you're not sure what matters, you spend a crap ton of time, well, let's just say wasting time, trying to figure that part out. And then what happens is you beat yourself up because you say like, I'm an intelligent woman. I should know better. I should know how to move through this. I should know how to execute the things I want in my life. And you spend a lot of time in this like downward spiral in self-sabotage mode inside your mind, not really taking care of the things that matter. So that's number one. The reason to-do lists don't work is there's just too many choices. Reason number two is to-do lists leave you often doing the stuff that's easy. So when you have this big to-do list and you look at it, tell me this is not true. What's the first thing you do often in the to-do list if you haven't strategized somewhere else? The first thing you do is you're like, okay, what can I get done the fastest? What's the easiest? So you go to that to-do list and you're like, okay, yes, that's the easiest, that's the fastest, that's going to be where I start. So you start to cross it off. You start to do the thing. Why is that a problem specifically? Well, it's not immediately, right? You're getting that immediate gratification and you might even be that kind of productive. But why it is a problem is that you're actually resisting the stuff that is going to create the greatest impact in your life. And I'm going to give you an example in just a second. It's the stuff that you resist that is actually going to move the needle the most for you in life. But if you're in analysis paralysis and you start to just do the easiest thing, you're never going to have a solution that gets accomplished. So you keep doing the easy stuff, and you might even be watching this video and saying, yeah, to-do lists aren't a problem for me, like just, I get it all done. So you keep doing the easy stuff, and you end up checklisting your life away, and inside though you feel like your soul is empty, and you're not really fulfilling your dreams. You're not really fulfilling your full potential. Like life is not meant to be a checklist, and you're just doing the easy stuff, crossing it all off. So I'll give you a great example. Somebody building a business, for instance, and they have all these checklists. And let's just say they're really good at social media. So what do? They're like, okay, post on social. Yes. Interact on social. They do all the things. But also on their list is like launching their first workshop or hosting a challenge or sending an email to pitch themselves on a podcast, something that takes a lot more energy. They have a lot more resistance to. It's a lot more uncomfortable because you got to put yourself out there differently. And so they checklist and they get those few things done. And guess what? They get that hit of dopamine. They're like, yeah, that feels good. And because they got that feeling, they're done. This is what happens, you guys. You start to checklist the easy stuff, and then you get that feeling of accomplishment and you step away from it, leaving all of the stuff that actually matters, that's going to move the needle and that you have the most discomfort around, left on the list. Or let's just say somebody that wants to live a healthy lifestyle. And they're really good at working out already. They are working out consistently. So on their list, they have like a HIIT workout Monday, lifting twice. They have meal planning on there. They have grocery shopping. And so what do? They do the workouts. And they're like, yeah, it feels so good. Look at me. I'm following through on myself. And then when it comes to actually implementing a shift in their food patterns, they never get to it. They never get consistently coming to it because they got that relief of the pain. They, in their brain, convinced themselves that they were taking action and they never got to the stuff that matters. That's when we don't see results. We only do the stuff on top that's easy and we never actually execute the higher resistant items, the stuff that actually force us to be uncomfortable and do the dang thing underneath it. And so you checklist and you tell yourself the story the whole time, yeah, this feels really good. And all the while you're like, why am I not really seeing the results I want? And I know you might be like, this is me. So let's talk about number 3, because I know this is starting to wheels are turning. So we're talking about right now, the 3 reasons to-do lists alone don't work. So we said too many choices and there's no clarity in your priorities. You're doing the easy stuff. And lastly, the reason to-do lists don't really serve you is because typically everything on that list is actually for everybody else. It's very rare that in the beginning of coaching, if I were just to blind right now audit a to-do list you wrote for me, very little to none would actually be something that's going to make you feel more free in your life, more peace in your life, more confident in your life, more empowered. It's typically stuff that's going to make everybody else feel better. So what do? We sacrifice our comfort and we make ourselves uncomfortable and try to keep up in order to keep everybody else feeling comfortable. And so we do the kids stuff. We make the appointments. Those are all on the list. All the house chores are there. All the things for everybody else are there. And so then even if you are really good, and let's just say you completed 100% of your to-do list, at the end, when you finish and you still feel like junk, this is why. Very minimal, very few parts of your to-do list are for you. And so you end up last on the list chronically, or maybe parts of it are on the list for you, but instead what you do is you bypass it. I know you're listening and this sounds familiar. You're like, oh yeah, I put that workout in there. I put order the groceries in there. I put journal in there or meditate, but I'll just get to that later. I'm going to do all this other stuff first because it's more important. We tell ourselves a story that it is more important. And what happens then is you are last on the list and you feel resentful, exhausted, overwhelmed. And going deeper, this impacts your hormone levels so they feel like a hot mess. Your stress hormones elevate. You don't feel good in your body. You're not getting good rest. And it's like this cycle that you may not even be consciously aware of currently. And this is why it's so impactful to understand that life is not meant to be checklists over and over and over. And there is a better way than checklists alone. Because I see this struggle over and over with women that I work with. And if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and tell me in the chat box maybe which one of those resonates with you the most. The reason to-do lists aren't working. Number one, for you, there's just too many choices. It's analysis paralysis. Two, you end up doing the stuff that is so easy and that doesn't take any mind work, brain power, effort, discomfort. Or three, your lists aren't really for you. And so you do them and then you end up feeling completely depleted. And so this is such an important part of reframing how you spend your hours and minutes and time in your day, in your week, in your life, and in your soul. If this is something that resonates with you, you are likely feeling like, I just keep going through the motions. Every day feels like the same. And you're doing the things, you're checking the boxes, and yet inside your soul's like, there's got to be more available. And Mindy says resisting the stuff that takes discomfort definitely speaks to her the most. And I think that for many of us, that definitely speaks to us the most. And so I want to share some super exciting news, and that is my signature course called Grounding Day opens up in a few weeks. And this is the work that I do inside. I help you feel more energized, take you from this place of overwhelm into this place of flow and ease so you have more energy to do the things in your life that matter and spend your hours, your days, your entire life intentionally, clear on your priorities, and in total tune with what you specifically need instead of checklisting your life away. I hope today's episode spoke right to your heart, and it's really about making yourself a priority without exception. No matter if you have a busy schedule, you have a busy life, you run a business, you work corporate, you stay at home with your kids, no matter what stories are wagering in your mind, the greatest way to feeling more energy and increasing your productivity and feeling just freaking awesome in your life is making space for yourself. And I want you to continue to do that inside of a free training that I am just kicking off. You can visit feelamazingnaked.com/more energy. And inside this free training, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to teach you how to have more energy, how to reduce the overwhelm that's taking place with all the things on your lists, and still be able to do all the things you desire with yourself at the top of your priority list. So again, come join my free masterclass at feelamazingnaked.com/more energy.